let us go to conventional expression. What we're going to discuss here in the conventional expression is that conventional expression questions on the SAT test your understanding of the way the English language is spoken, believe it or not. Are we going to have questions about that? Of course you're going to have questions. We'll take a look at some of the most common types of expression tested on the SAT. Here is what's ahead. This is what we're going to cover. What is conventional expression? Idioms, memorization, idioms tested on the SAT, tougher prepositions, conjunction pairs, commonly confused words, and summary. Okay? And let us start with this. What is conventional expressions? Conventional expression refers to a type of question on the SAT that does not necessarily follow a strict grammatical rule. There are no rules for. Rather, instead, conventional expression questions are about testing your understanding of the English language and seeing if you know how a phrase might be commonly said or written in English. So it depends on how it sounds to you, how you've heard that word before. Keeping all that in mind, let us start with our first main category of conventional expression questions, idioms. Idioms are words or phrases that have commonly accepted meaning simply because of the way they are traditionally used in English. There is no simple rule, as I always say, Ya Abdullah, that defines idioms. They are, by definition, special cases. For example, let us look at this one. Jill has no idea what she's up against. I'll say it this way. Jill has no idea what she's up against. Means what? You have a very difficult situation or problem to deal with, or she has a very difficult situation to deal with. That's she's up against. Okay, so this one is, for me, is correct. But I will never say Jill has no idea what she's up towards. I will never say this. Teacher, what is the rule? There is no rule. You have to accept it as such. Again, there is no general rule it falls under. You understand? That might be a little frustrating to think that there are types of questions in which knowing the rules just won't be enough. So let us talk about some strategies for approaching idioms. How can we approach? How can we make it easier for us? Number one, you need to memorize. Memorization. You need to learn by heart. There is no other way. Students who want to improve further can do so in a couple of ways. First, you can study lists of idioms in books or on the internet, and I have provided you here with a lot, especially those common to the SAT. Second, you can do lots of SAT problems and note whenever an answer explanation involves an idiom. So whenever we come across an idiom, we need to what? We need to write it down in a notebook, or we need to what? To study it and revisit every now and then. Idioms tested on the SAT. While all kinds of idiom exist in English, the most common idiom tested on SAT are all related to prepositions, remember. And that's what I have found out. It's not related to any kind of other idioms, but mainly prepositions. To see whether a phrase might involve an idiom, check to see if it involves a preposition, especially one that sounds wrong. As a reminder, prepositions link words, usually nouns, to the rest of the sentence, like what? Of, in, to, for, with, on, at, from, by, about, as, into, like, through, after, over, between, out, against. Okay. And you say, teacher, it sounds difficult, but we are going to give, at the end of this paper, some commonly tested idioms you have to be aware of. Drill question. And that's, of course, easy. And who can tell me we have seen that in a real SAT? The teacher assigned extra homework to students who talked in class as a means of course, you know this. Then we have got some tougher prepositions. What are the tougher prepositions? And I need people to learn. I need people to study this. The most common ones you might know, but it's helpful to get familiar with even some uncommon prepositions. We can break them into simpler meanings. So this one is homework. Please study. Whereby, by which, that's the meaning. Notwithstanding, in spite of, or even though. Throughout, all the way through. Within, inside. As regards, with respect to. As opposed to, in comparison with. So please study these. They are quite helpful. You might come across some of these in the exam. Drill question. The employee put an extra hours in order, of course you go for what? In order to be. Because you got used to this, that's fine. It might appear as such, of course, yes, it might appear as such. Let us move on to our next common conventional expression. And these are the most common. Conjunction pairs. You are probably familiar with the basic conjunctions. What are the basic conjunctions? Words that connect other words or phrases. The most famous are the fanboys words. What are the fanboys? Of course, you know for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. But there are also more complicated conjunctions called what? Correlative conjunctions. We know this, which work together in pairs. Of course, you know both and, we know this, we know either or, neither nor, not only but also. Maybe this is the first time to know not but or just as so. And I want you to write down for just as so for people who don't know how to use it in sentences. Let's write this example. We can write this: just as the English love football, soccer. Okay, so to the Americans love baseball. This is how I use just as, remember, so. Okay? Each of the words above can appear by itself. What do you mean, mister? I can say both of the candidates, either of the candidates, neither of the students. They can appear by themselves. But whenever words like these are paired up with other conjunctions, they must be put in these exact pairs, same as such. Kendrick was not only the best dancer in the school, of course, we'll go for but also. I know it's easy. It always appears in the exam. Then let us go to the last part here, which is the commonly confused words. The SAT also likes to test whether you know the difference between certain words that are often mixed up with each other. In most cases, these words get mixed up because they sound similar or exactly the same, despite their different meanings. Sometimes the incorrect word will still be grammatically correct, but using it would make the sentence not make any sense. We might use a correct word, but with that context, with that sentence, is completely what? Is completely wrong. Let us talk about some of these. For example, the following sentence is correct. The ingenuous old lady was often tricked out of her fortune. What do you think? The ingenuous old lady was often tricked out of her fortune. بيضحك عليها بسهولة. Ingenuous means innocent or childlike, and so easy to be tricked. Even this sentence is correct. However, another word that sounds like ingenuous, ingenious. And ingenious means what? Very clever. So we have got two words here. Ingenuous means what? Childish, innocent. And ingenious means what? Very clever. Very, very similar In what? In sound. But thus not easily tricked. Because if she is very clever, if she is very ingenious, she would never be what? Tricked. When you confuse the two, you get a wrong what? Word error. So in that case, the ingenious old lady was often tricked out of her fortune. This is quite what? Quite wrong. Okay? Similarly, let us go through this one. After Nash broke the rules in the boxing ring, he was unqualified for the remaining competition. Unqualified. And you need to understand the difference between unqualified and disqualified. Unqualified means what, Ya Hajar? Not meeting the requirements. That's unqualified, which is not relevant here. If you went to an interview, you want to take a job, okay? But you are unqualified. You don't have the language, you don't have the computer literacy. The word this is being confused with is disqualified, which means being ineligible for an activity because of an offense. If you are not complying with the rules. So again, unqualified means not meeting the requirements, and disqualified means being ineligible for an activity because of an offense. You did something wrong, so you were disqualified. You got it? You are not complying with the rules of the game. Let us take a look at some commonly confused words that can appear on the SAT. Of course, you know affect and effect. Affect is almost a verb. You affect something. Effect is almost a noun. Something can have an effect. Let us read the two examples here. The fact that the sun set so early in the day affected her usually cheery mood. Affected أثرت عليها. But the sunshine had a great effect on her mood. Another confusing words, compliment and compliment. When you compliment someone, you say something nice about him. You praise. You keep praising him. When two things complement each other, they fit well together, like the perfect couple. Let us read the examples here. Jack complimented Laura on her numerous sales achievements. I mean, you did a great job, so he started to praise her, say something nice about her performance. The tanginess of the tomatoes complemented the smoothness of the olive oil. Both of them completed each other. Then we have got prospective versus perspective. Prospective versus perspective. Something is prospective. It means if it is expected in the future, it has to do with the future. Like a prospective recruit, they're going to hire people in the future. A perspective, of course, your point of view, your opinion. That's the difference. So we go for, as a prospective student at Dartmouth, Jillian was very excited about meeting with the professors in the department she hoped to study in. So it has to do with what? With the future. But my perspective on this issue differs from yours, and we should simply leave it at that. What else? Liable for and likely to. Even though it's commonly used this way, sometimes we see it liable to, which is fine, by the way, but the right one is liable for, okay? Liable to does not mean likely to. Likely to means probably, possibly, because here we have got liability. Liability refers to what? Responsibility. Remember this one. Liability means what? Responsibility. Don't forget. So, and the adjective form is liable for, like responsible for. Liable for damages means what? Responsible for damages. But likely to, like possibly or probably. So you go for, I am likely to stop by the store on my way home from work to pick up groceries. I'm likely to stop. I'm probably to stop. I will probably stop. But I say he is liable for the damage. He's responsible for the damage that he caused to the other person's car when he got into that accident. Elude or elude, both are right, and elude. Elude or elude means to escape from, remember. Allude means what? To refer to indirectly. Like alluding to this novel. So when you allude to a novel, when you allude to, let us say, a character in a novel, when you allude to a situation or an event, it means what? You refer indirectly to it. How do you memorize this? You can tell yourself the E in elude means escape. Remember this if you want to study it. So we have got elude and allude. Professor Morrison alluded to Shakespeare's play, The Tempest. He referred to it in her lecture, or she referred to it in her lecture on Brave New World. The robber eluded the police officers by hiding in a dumpster, in a whatever large container for rubbish. Okay? We have than and then, or then versus than. And by the way, it appears in the exam. Though it's very easy, but it appears a lot in the exam. Then indicates time, of course, describing something that happens after another event. You know this. Than is a word comparing two things. Of course, we don't have to stop here that much. First, finish your homework, then you can play video games. Okay? And I'll go for, by the way, I'll go for and then. Otherwise, it's going to be comma splice. His plant grew taller than anyone else's in class. So that's a comparison between what? Between two. I'll say something, I will never say it always appears, but it appeared once in the real SAT. And it has to do with what? With the pronunciation more. Might have. We know that might have done, would have done, could have done, should have done. But it is always confused with what? With might of, in terms of what? In terms of pronunciation. This is simple. Might of, would of, could of, should of, and must of are all incorrect. We don't have this. The only correct way to use this is to say might have, would have, could have, as we have just said. The reason this is confusing is that when you contract could have to could have, should have, out loud starts to what sounds like could have. Okay? So it has to do with the pronunciation. Remember, we don't have this at all. So if you found it in any answer choice, please don't choose. Okay? We go for what? Must have, should have, or even with the contraction. And here, I put this for you to study. Write down, this is homework. This is the following. The following is a list of some examples of the most common idioms you will find on the SAT. Here we have got about, and as we said, this has to do with prepositions, right? We have got for, we have got on, we have got almost all the prepositions, okay, that have to do with this lesson. We have got worry about, complain about, wonder about, curious about, think about, bring about, cause, to be particular about, against. We have protest against, protect against, defend against, sometimes protest against. We have got at, we say adept at, good at, bad at. We have confused, by. We have by, confused by, followed by, predated by, puzzled by, perplexed by, and so on. We have of, here, have an appreciation of, suspicious of, a mastery of, a command of, capable of, incapable of, in recognition of, devoid of. So please study these. This is part of your what homework. Say, teacher, why you have highlighted these? Because they appear before in exams, okay? They appear before. Provide insight into, appeared before. On the verge of, appeared before in one of the exams. Committed to, same thing. So please, I know it's a lot of work, but you have to do it. Those all appeared in the exam. Attributed to, a tendency to or towards, correlate with, consistent with, inconsistent with, preoccupied with. All these appeared in real SAT exams, so I need you to study them well, okay? This is it for the day. Thank you very much.